We are living through history, even as we humbly work on this first draft. As promised, I'm joined by journalist Bob Woodward, who helped break the Watergate scandal for the Washington Post. He's written many books, including a trilogy of books quite relevant on the Trump presidency, including the national security apparatus. He has an audio book of his newsworthy interviews with Donald Trump titled The Trump Tapes. Mr. Woodward, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
How do you view this federal indictment of Donald Trump?
Clearly very serious. I know, talking to a couple of people about Jack Smith, the prosecutor here, one of them made the point, said, I know Jack very well, and he's the last person I want to be prosecuting me because he's so aggressive. I suspect in other cases like this, I have seen where the prosecutor does not stop investigating. And I'm pretty sure in this case, there is a lot of work to be done, lots of documents to go through. And in laying out the indictment, which is kind of a roadmap, they can now seek, and I suspect they will very aggressively, more witnesses, more documents, to explain what all of this is about.
Mm-hmm. You are a student and an expert on presidential power. I think the viewers know that. And one thing we've seen with power is that it is subject to abuse at its apex, not at its nadir. We've seen in clashes over secrecy, over the Supreme Court, over wars, that presidents are sometimes tempted to accrue or abuse power in the national security arena. I want to show you the evidence and get your response that we see, for example, Walt Nauta, who shared this photo saying, I opened the door and found all these secrets spilling out. There's stuff that the prosecutors redacted, but we know the classification levels. Boxes in the bathroom. I want to mention that the seriousness of this can't be understated, while at the same time, there's an almost extreme clumsiness to it. The HBO series, which looks at the Watergate break-in from a perspective, discusses even the absurdities. Take a look.
We strike tonight.
These are the wrong tools.
What? He has the wrong tools. This time we walk straight in the front door.
It's a double-sided deadbolt.
Somebody needs to clean this mess up. You want us to break in a fourth time? Wait, what do you mean a fourth time? Nothing. Spy talk.
We leave it to you to draw any parallels, but what do you see about the fact that national security, so serious, can also be abused as an excuse to evade accountability or to just have stuff spilling out onto the floor in Trump's world?
Well, there's so much negligence in all of this. Looking through the documents, I mean, there's some, two of the documents point to human sources, which are the most sensitive crown jewels in the intelligence world. And I was shocked to see those documents in the list, the most highly classified. And the idea that somehow Trump would want to keep these documents about some secret source that the CIA would have in some other government.
And we'll put those on the screen while you analyze, because you flagged this. We have document 24 on foreign country military, and then the one regarding the human products. Walk us through why you flagged that.
Well, because these are so important. They're in history been examples like the famous Penkovsky case. The information, he was a spy in the Soviet Union, provided information that helped President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis. In the 80s, the CIA had a human source that provided all the data about weapon systems that the Soviets had, and this spy was accurately dubbed the billion-dollar spy because the value of what he gave the government. And the idea that the President of the United States or former president has these documents is got no respect for them. Richard Helms, the CIA director, once told me, he said, a mother protecting her chicks is nothing compared to what the CIA will do to protect their operations and sources. And Trump, in these cases, in the other documents, who knows where this is going to go? He doesn't care. And I remember in these interviews with him asking him, what's the job of the president? And he said, to protect the people. He was doing the opposite. He was endangering the people.
How does his conduct, as described in these filings, as well as the other information we have in your reporting as well, compare to Richard Nixon?
Well, in the case of Nixon, of course, there were the tapes, and John Dean, the whistleblower, and Dean had 35 conversations with Nixon, which he testified to, and then we later got the tapes that validated what Dean said. Dean was in charge of the cover-up. Here, in the case of Trump, Trump was in charge of the cover-up, in the concealment of ordering people. I mean, you have to feel sorry for his valet being indicted because he was doing what Trump ordered. And so we're going to, I think this is going to be drip, drip, more information, more explanation. The sadness and the morality play in this, and there is a big one, is that Trump is all about himself. I think he looks at democracy as enemy territory, something, it's about the people, or it's about the interests of the people, not about the interests of Donald Trump. And unfortunately and pathetically, time and time again, in the years of work I have done, Ari, on your show, other people, it is never Trump saying, what's in the national interest here? It was always, what's in Donald Trump's interest?
And that's quite damning, as you say. The evidence is strong, and there is a part of Trump's personal defense and some of his allies who really alienate anyone looking at a fair, a factual approach to this, because they have been so rabid and in their own way unfair. At the same time, he is legally presumed innocent. We are talking about a trial process. The burden is entirely on the aforementioned Special Counsel Smith and the DOJ, not on the defendant. And so given that we try to do this right or learn, what do you think is important to keep in mind for fairness to the defendant and to the facts as we as a nation now embark on this?
I think it's really important to make sure we take the partisan edge off of this, and that we look at this. Jurors down in South Florida are presumably going to get this case someday, a trial, and they may look at this differently. It always depends on the audience, and that's got to be realized. And this is not a partisan hunt. I don't see any evidence in this indictment or what we know about the investigation that this is partisan. It is an effort to say, wait a minute, the former president of the United States took all these documents, concealed them, covered them up. I mean, it's a classic case of obstruction of justice. And we're going to, be looking at this question, which maybe will never be answered, but why? Why wouldn't somebody say to Trump or him have this sense of, what am I jeopardizing here in terms of national security and of my own legal vulnerability. It's, again, I spent all these hours with Trump, and you always come up against a wall in a way when you deal with Trump, because he's got an answer, or he's going to spin you off on something, and it's too bad for him and his family and his supporters.